If you are a beginner drummer in need of some aha moments today, I feel ya. It's easy to feel in the dark, not knowing what you don't know, and not yet really having any pivotal moments to confirm that you're doing something right. As you learn my 8 biggest aha moments from my last 18 years of playing, you'll notice an interesting trend that I hope is encouraging to you. We'll also break down the truth about aha moments as you learn some simple mile marker type expectations to have in your playing and your growth in the coming months and years. My hope is that you'll be able to take a bunch of these tips and lessons and run with them so that you're making progress even today, so that you're further ahead than I was back when I was a beginner. You can do this. Hey, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that you can nail songs and become the drummer other people want to jam with and that they want to have in their band. So I found an interesting trend with my aha moments. This is pretty strange. I hadn't thought about this before, and I just noticed it as I was brainstorming these. And so I think you're going to find this interesting. I think you're going to ultimately find this encouraging. And so we'll get into that in just a minute. First off, though, I have a free gift for you in the description below. I want to help you solve your weak hand. I want to help you build fast, fluid chops that you can apply to the full drum set, whether electric or acoustic, even if you're constrained to pad practice right now. If you're busy, you're practicing on the go, you're having to practice quietly, maybe you haven't even bought a drum set yet because you're new and so you've just got your sticks and a pad. No worries, because you can make a lot of progress on the practice pad as long as you're practicing the right things. There's a lot of wrong things you can practice on the pad that will not help you on the full kit. But there are 3 in particular, if we boil all this down, 3 big things you can practice on your pad that will carry over the best to the drum set, in my experience and my students' experience. And so I think this is going to help you out a whole bunch. This is a 30-minute simple practice routine for drummers who are constrained to pad practice, or maybe you find that you just practice more and you practice more regularly on your pad. And so sure, that can be a part of your practicing, then you get on the kit. Either way, go grab the 3 daily pad exercises, the 30-minute practice routine. This is going to help you out a whole bunch, especially if you're a beginner. My free gift to you in the description. So as I was brainstorming these aha moments and I was thinking, like, what have been my biggest aha moments? I was labeling them with what year they happened. And then after that, okay, this was, year 4 of playing the drums, year 2, year 7 of playing the drums. And so what was really strange, I hadn't thought about this before until I actually started labeling them all. Most of these aha moments happened the same year. So out of this whole 18-year span, I've been playing the drums for 18 years. Since I bought my first kit and started playing, I was self-taught for 2 years and I started taking lessons, and here we are now. 18 years, out of all of that, most of these aha moments happened the same calendar year. No joke. And most of these specifically happened year 6 of taking lessons. So I share this with you for a few reasons. One of them is take heart. If you've just recently started and you're a few months into this and you're like, I'm not having a lot of light bulb moments, I'm not having a lot of big realizations, I'm not having a lot of leaps, I feel like I'm not moving quickly, it's okay. I was 6 years into lessons before a lot of these biggest aha moments happened for me. So that leads us to the truth about aha moments. Here's what I believe it is. Even though we want to believe that aha moments will happen in predictable, organized ways, the truth is that they'll come in seasons. And you might have to wait a while. It's easy to wish that there were 2 aha moments each year, or 1 every month, spread out nice and evenly, but things come in seasons. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong. You just have to be patient and enjoy the process, because things are going to happen when they happen. But why is this? Well, I believe that the reason why these aha moments come in seasons is because things have to come full circle in order for us to arrive at the aha moment. And so that's why this takes patience. That's why it's a process. Even if a teacher teaches you something, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have an aha moment right then, because we're not always ready to receive something. Sometimes we've got to get further along in our playing before that whole thing makes sense. And we're like, oh, I see what they were trying to teach me. Oh, I get it now. Then you have the aha moment. So sometimes things have to come full circle. So it might be years later after you've learned something that finally it makes sense and you're like, I get it now. So that's why it takes some time, but be encouraged, because you're hanging out with me here today. You're watching this, and odds are you're going to learn something from my aha moments. Odds are there's going to be some takeaways. You're going to be able to take this stuff and run with it. And you just might have your own aha moments even as you're sitting here watching this lesson. That is my hope. So I know I had to give you a lot of context and prefacing there, but I think that was important to include. And I'm going to tell you with each of these what year of my playing they happened, just to give you the context and kind of explain a little deeper. So here we go, my 8 biggest aha moments, and these are in chronological order. Number 1, if you work on jazz and Latin, your rock playing will automatically get better. In other words, higher technical ceiling equals more comfort on the drums. This was my first aha moment that happened within the first few months of lessons. But again, it was the kind of thing where my teacher told me this. I told him I want to be a rock drummer. And he was like, okay, great. You're going to learn jazz and Latin too. I was like, okay. But I ended up enjoying jazz and Latin, and learning jazz ended up helping me a whole bunch with rock. And also learning jazz, when you get into jazz, there's just so much nuance and subtlety you learn when you get into that. And you also start getting really good at improvisation. There are a ton of benefits to learning jazz. And so I'm not going to try to list all of them out for you right now, but what I want you to do is have on your radar that, hey, even if I want to be a rock drummer, even if I just want to play at my church, even if I just want to jam with my buddies, I just want to play cover gigs on the weekends, even if I never want to play jazz or Latin, by working on jazz, your touch, your feel, your dynamics, your coordination, your improvisation abilities are going to skyrocket. If you work on Latin, a lot of those same things are going to happen. You're also going to push your coordination a whole bunch. You'd be amazed what will happen. And so then your rock playing naturally elevates. You develop more comfort, which means more confidence, which means you're more at home on your instrument, which means you have more fun, and you develop all those superpowers associated with coordination and just becoming one with your instrument. And so that was something, a big aha moment. When my teacher first told me that, I was like, wow, I never thought about that. I was a total beginner drummer. Okay, I will trust you. I trusted him. And within a few months of working on jazz, I immediately saw those results in my rock playing, that the rock playing just became that much more effortless. And so that was a big aha moment. I was like, yes, I'm glad that I had a really good teacher who taught me that. And so I say that to you too. Work on your rock playing. Have fun with your rock playing, but also get into jazz. I'll link some lessons below if you want to get into that kind of territory, because we've got some stuff here on the channel about jazz basics. Jazz for beginners, it is not that complicated. There's no need to be scared of it, and you can absolutely start getting some basics and some fundamentals down in the jazz and the Latin world, even if you're a beginner. So I'll link some lessons below. We'll do that for a lot of these. There will be further lessons for you to go check out if you want to go deeper. Okay, aha moment number 2. You can play any creative fill you want with accented singles. So this was a pretty early on realization I had, probably about year 2 of lessons. And I think the way that I stumbled upon this, I'll explain to you a little bit about what I mean here, and I'll show you. There was a jazz exercise. So again, going back to the jazz thing, my drum set teacher was teaching me jazz, and something that we would do is we would take these jazz melodies. Maybe the melody was boom, 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 ba, boom. There's a lot of ways you can play that melody. You could go like that, or you could play it on the kick. Or another way we would play it, so what we would do is we would play alternating right, left triplets on the snare. So this isn't exactly a musical thing, it's more of just an exercise. But what we would do is then play that melody on the toms. So again, there's that rhythm, the ba, ba, bum, bum, bum. Hopefully it's the same one. Hopefully I didn't already change it in the span of the last 60 seconds. But boom, boom, bum, bum, bum. So we would have all these different melodies, rhythms that we would play, and I would then move to the toms in order to play them. And so I would have to figure out, okay, is this note going to need to be played by the right hand or the left? You can play a whole bunch of different melodies. And so in that jazz exercise of doing that, I think that led me to a rock version of this, which basically would go like this. Playing right, left 16ths, softly as a framework, as a bed of notes, so to speak, then just accenting and orchestrating to create rhythms and melodies. In other words, so here's our quarter note. ridiculous. You can sit here and come up with melodies and rhythms without ever leaving the right, left, right, left. And so that was another one of those aha moments that came out of the jazz thing that my teacher taught me. And so I was learning how to create these jazz melodies on the toms within this triplet format, which led me to almost naturally stumble upon a rock version of that. And so I remember as a high school kid playing drums in my church, crafting fills and doing tom grooves and realizing, hey, I have this really cool cheat. If I've got to play a tom groove, I can just go. And that's pretty much how I played them all. Yes, that's probably too many notes because the whole thing just, it's all 16th notes. Eventually I had to learn to deviate from that and do things more like. Which required a little bit more independence, which again came from working on the jazz stuff. And so that came a little bit later, but having that cheat initially was so helpful to me and such a big confidence booster. I want you to practice that too, of just playing right, left, 16ths, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, and practice accenting certain notes, practice moving to toms. And just see what all you can do. It'll give you a lot of confidence, a lot of stability in playing fills, and you'll have a whole bunch of fun with it. Now, speaking of moving around the kit, aha moment number 3. Everything becomes smoother when you start thinking less about rebound and more about creating motion. So as a beginner, especially when you're practicing on a practice pad, there's a lot of overemphasis on rebound. And rebound is important, don't get me wrong, but when you're playing on a drum set that's maybe tuned low, right now I have this kit tuned low because it's fun to have a low tuning every now and then. If you're hitting low tuned drums and you're hitting the edges of cymbals, nothing is actually giving you a whole bunch of rebound. And so something that I started to notice in my playing, and again, this was something I don't think was fully isolated. This was an aha moment that I came upon in year 3 of lessons, but I think it was the culmination of a lot of stuff teachers were teaching me. But I was watching my reflection as I was practicing one day, and I was noticing that, okay, when I play on my practice pad with just one hand, that's what my stick looks like, as it should, where it's moving smoothly up and down, especially if it's a practice pad that's a lot bouncier than this low-tuned snare. But what I noticed was happening when I went to alternating 16ths, instead of that same motion continuing, here's what was happening. Do you see the difference? This, the bad thing, versus here's what it ought to be. I was choking out that motion. And so what I realized was, okay, whenever I go to alternating 16ths, I start to choke things out. And that might have come from the whole thing I showed you a minute ago of that's how I was creating melodies and rhythms and fills. So I think I was in the habit of pressing down and getting soft and then coming up loud. And so what I wasn't able to do was just go. And what I quickly noticed was this is inhibiting my motion because I'm choking things out, which means I'm having to move in more jagged ways instead of moving in smooth arcing motions. That was a huge realization. And that became a process. Like that was something to work on. It was a process. It wasn't just a night and day, now everything is smooth and perfect. No, I had now become aware of it. The aha moment was becoming aware of an issue and realizing I need to practice moving in more smooth arcing motions. And so what I started practicing was just big open singles, not trying to play loud, just allowing them to be open and then moving that around the drum set. And what that means when you're playing on low-tuned drums is you are creating the motion. You're not just relying on the rebound, because if you're only relying on the rebound, you're going to end up flailing and going, and it's going to feel like a sloppy mess. And so that's why you have to grip a little bit more firmly. I've referred to it as the drum set grip when I've taught this before, gripping more firmly with a fulcrum that's closer to your palm instead of, way out here loose. We're gripping more firmly, fingers are wrapped around. We're not tight, we're just firm. We're firm and controlled, but we're not tight and squeezing. And so we're able to create this up and down motion. You can test this by seeing, can I air drum? If I can air drum up and down like this, then I know I've got it. It's that simple. Aha moment number 4. Okay, now we're getting into the ones that all happened in year 6. So those first few happened year 1, year 2, year 3, in that order. But now we get into the ones where these were kind of the deeper things, like the bigger aha moments of, whoa, I feel like I've been enlightened. I feel like my eyes have opened to a new world. That's what started happening in year 6. Aha moment number 4. All of the answers are in the song's melody. So we've all had the question of, how do I know what fill to play? When do I play that fill? When it comes time to play the fill, what kind of fill should it be? Should it be a lot of notes? Should it be simple? Should it be long? Should it be short? Should it be a snare fill? Should it be a tom fill? Should it be a kick fill? What about kick drum pattern? How do we know what kick drum pattern to play? All these questions, and it all seems overwhelming, and it was overwhelming to me until I learned that every answer to every one of those questions lies in the melody of the song. In most music, whether pop, rock, country, Christian worship music, any genre that has a vocal, where the vocal is the center point, that song is crafted all around the melody. Everything is based off the melody. When you start noticing this, it really is like a huge aha moment of, whoa, okay, now I'm realizing that, okay, the chord progression is based off of the melody. The two might have kind of been written at the same time, but the chord progression is supporting the melody. The chord changes are supporting the melody. The overall feel of everything is based off of the melody. If the singer is singing something that's very smooth and on the beats, none of the musicians are going to be playing anything syncopated and offbeat. But a lot of times melodies can get syncopated, and melodies might be on E's and U's. So if the melody is getting more choppy and syncopated, that's going to affect how the musicians play. It's going to affect your kick drum pattern. When the vocalist stops singing and there's a hole there, that might be where you play a fill. As far as what kind of fill you play, well, okay, how does that melody feel? What style is the song? So much stuff here that, this is we could have an entire course on this one aha moment. But I learned this from my favorite drummer, Aaron Sterling. He's an LA session drummer. He's played on a lot of my favorite records. And I was listening to an interview with him. I think the interview is from 2013. And a really good interview of just him talking about music and his career for a couple hours. And the guy interviewing him asked, so when you're on a session and you're recording, what are you listening to? And he said, I'm not really listening to the bass player that much. I'm not listening a ton to the guitar. You would think that as a drummer, you're supposed to just listen to the bass drum player, to the bass guitar player. But he was like, no, that doesn't really matter that much. I'm really just listening to the vocal. I'm listening to the melody because that tells me everything. And he went on to explain what I just told you about the importance of how all the answers are there in the melody. And so that just blew my mind. And as I went and I listened back to all these songs I'd heard throughout my life, as I listened to songs Aaron Sterling had recorded on, I saw that this is true time and time again, and it just amazed me. So all the answers are in the song's melody. Spend time sitting and listening to music and noticing this. Whenever you hear a fill, ask yourself, why did the drummer play a fill right there? Why did they play that fill? And if you ask yourself that consistently, and you have that level of curiosity when listening to music, your eyes are going to be opened. You're going to start noticing this stuff. You'll have a lot of fun with it. Aha moment number 5. This one also happened year 6, around the same time. Playing rim shots is so much easier when you're gripping close to the butt end of the stick. So this one's kind of random, kind of a random technical thing. But I was at a point in my playing where I was working on my dynamics, and I was working on playing stronger backbeats, which we're going to talk about a little more in the next aha moment. And I'll explain kind of why. Really, the next one will explain why I was working on this. But I was working on rim shots, which means we're hitting the snare where the tip is landing in the center or a little above the center, and then the shaft is also hitting the rim at the same time. So instead of going like this, that was center, we go like this. That was the rim shot. Now, the funny thing about rim shots is if you're gripping your stick further up here, the way that you might grip for timekeeping, like if I'm playing on the ride, I'm going to grip further up right here for a lighter feel. But if I grip that same way down here trying to play rim shots, I can do it, but it doesn't feel as good and it starts to get sloppy. Versus if I grip down here almost all the way to the butt end, suddenly the stick has more weight, it has more throw, and I can just go bam, and it just feels great every time. So my right hand will be gripping like this, a lot further up the stick on the ride. And then if I move my right stick over to the snare, I let it slip out too, so that I can do the rim shots right here by gripping both of them near the butt end. So if you're hitting hard, if you're hitting drums hard and you're hitting rim shots, grip closer to the butt end. If you're playing softly, grip further up. It's going to feel way better playing softly, gripping further up, or if you're doing quick timekeeping. That was a huge aha moment for me. And honestly, it was just one of those things I kind of stumbled upon of like, it feels a lot better when I grip down here. If I grip up here, okay, that's good for timekeeping. I wish I had stumbled upon that sooner than I did, but that was a huge one. I hope that helps you too. Aha moment number 6. So this kind of goes along with the rim shot thing and explains it. The volumes that you hit at, in other words, your dynamics, are just as important, if not more important, than your timing. So we're talking about kit mixing here. This was something that I learned actually from Larry London, the late, great Nashville session drummer Larry London. I was listening to a Chris McHugh interview years ago. This was year 6 of playing for me. And he was talking about in this interview, sitting in on a session in Nashville back in probably the 80s or 90s. And Larry London was playing on the session, and he was just playing so loud. He was just wailing away. And Chris McHugh asked him afterwards, so why are you hitting so hard? Because I never could have imagined from listening to your recordings that you were actually hitting that hard. Why were you hitting that hard? And Larry said something along the lines of, well, I got to keep the energy up. If my volume drops at all, that's a perceived drop in energy. Because dynamics are more noticed by the listener than time. And so if my dynamic drops, the energy drops, and the listener perceives it as we just slow down a little bit. And so it won't matter if my time was steady. If my dynamics aren't steady and I suddenly lose a little bit of energy, it's going to feel like the whole song lost energy and we slow down. We want to keep the energy up. We want to keep it driving for this song. So I've got to keep my energy up here. And so I listened to Chris McHugh talk about that and I thought, wow, that's incredible. And so this is something I like to think of and call the drumming theory of relativity, which is probably not the best name for it, but it's the whole relationship of time and dynamics. So Einstein had the time and space thing. I want to steal that and just talk about time and dynamics with it. But the relationship between time and dynamics is that you could be playing with perfect time, but if your dynamics are all over the place and your backbeats aren't consistent, kind of like this. It feels like a mess, right? It doesn't matter how stable everything is time-wise. If every backbeat is different, or if every kick drum note is a different volume, it's just a mess. It's just sloppy. And so that's going to be more perceived by the audience than shifts in time. Go listen to a Led Zeppelin record. That's what I ended up doing after hearing Chris McHugh talk about this. I went and I listened to a Led Zeppelin record, and I was like, you know what? He's right, because you hear John Bonham going at it, playing hard, but his time is not completely steady. The band ebbs and flows. They speed up, they slow down, but he keeps that energy up and he's playing his rim shots, he's going at it, and it all feels great. Dynamics are more perceived by your listener than time. Your time can be imperfect, but if your dynamics are not steady, then the whole thing is going to be perceived as shaky. That was a massive aha moment for me, just in terms of getting my playing to where it felt more professional, getting my playing to where it was recordable, where I could play on a record and sound good. Because this also applied to things like fills, where let's say I wanted to play a simple rock fill. That right there is how I need to play it, where every note comes through, every note is intentional and punchy. But what if I played it like this instead? If I played it like that, suddenly it feels like this weird, sloppy kind of loss of energy because some of the notes were soft, when really they all just need to be punchy and in your face because it's a big, impactful rock fill. How you play your fills is going to depend on the style of the song, but if you're playing rock, as Larry London was in this example, as Chris McHugh is in Nashville playing pop, country, rock kind of stuff, you've got to keep everything nice and strong and solid. And so if you're going to play a snare fill, it needs to be strong like that and not. You can hear the difference. If the fill is wimpy, suddenly it's like this loss of energy, and it's like, what just happened there? Was that out of time? No, maybe it was perfectly in time, but we had a loss of dynamics and a lack of consistency there, and so then the listener perceives that as a mistake, as something went wrong right there. So I think you get the idea. Hopefully that makes sense. That was a massive aha moment for me. And suddenly I started recording better. I started sounding more professional when I started implementing that. I hope this helps you too. Aha moment number 7. This goes along with number 4. Number 4 was all the answers are in the song's melody. This aha moment number 7 kind of happened around that same time, actually. Sitting and listening deeply to music will take your drumming to the next level musically, because your ear is the most important asset you have. So early in year 6 of my playing, around the same time I listened to the Aaron Sterling interview and he was talking about melody, I happened to, basically a mutual friend introduced me to a really good professional drummer here in Atlanta who sat down with me, and he was even willing to come to a rehearsal and listen to me play. He was very kind and generous, and I learned so much from him just in kind of a short time that it was almost like he was my drumming coach, drumming mentor. And something that he told me, he was like, Steven, there are drummers here in town that can play circles around me. They've got crazy chops, and there are some gospel drummers in Atlanta with amazing chops. And so what this guy, my new friend, was telling me was that, you know what, they've got their thing they can do, but I have my ear. I might not have the insane chops they have, but I have my ear. That is my most powerful asset, and it's yours too. And what he went on to tell me was, when you're preparing for gigs, whether you're preparing for a church service, a cover gig, whatever you're doing, when you're learning songs, your focus needs to be a lot more on playing from your ear and not playing from your hands. Don't just let your hands do whatever they want to do. Be thinking about what you want to play so that it's intentional and impactful. And when you listen to music and when you prepare for a gig, listen to the song deeply. Put on your headphones, listen over and over again. See what all detail you can hear. Ask yourself, why is the drummer playing that? All these things that I've learned from Aaron Sterling too. All this was coming together at the same time there in year 6. And so he was like, prepare by listening. And when you're playing, be listening. Think less about your hands, less about the chop stuff. Playing rock music isn't even so much about the chops. It's more about just being intentional with the parts you play and being musical and thinking about what fills you play and being intentional. That's the word, being intentional and playing from your ear and not your hand. That was a massive aha moment for me that helped tie all of this together, so that here in year 6, it's like everything was coming full circle and I was becoming a more mature player, where instead of just, instead of playing something like, that was the kind of fill I might have played before. But instead, now I was thinking more like, making it more intentional, impactful, and making sure every note was heard. That first fill I played was more of a jazz fill, where, okay, if you're playing jazz, there's a time and place for that kind of stuff. And also, if we were playing jazz, the drums would be tuned higher, the snares would be tighter, so it would still feel a little bit more impactful. But when you're playing rock and you go into like a jazzy kind of fill, where you're like, you're going into like paradiddle stuff, it just easily turns into a mess and turns into more of that playing from the hands and not from the ear. And so that was the big difference for me. And so it really turned my playing around to where I started paying attention to the sounds I was getting, paying attention to how am I hitting each drum. Am I burying or bouncing the beater? Am I hitting the center of the drum? When I hit a crash, am I going like that, or am I going, am I glancing the stick? So I was starting to pay a lot of attention to these things, which made my playing sound way more professional. I hope that this can help you start thinking about the same things, because this led into aha moment number 8, our final aha moment. Playing quick hi-hat 16th is so much easier when you use the neck of the stick with a shallow angle. So this actually came the following year, year 7 for me, but kind of sprung out of all of that stuff happening in year 6. I learned this watching Aaron Sterling, and specifically watching Paul Maybury, a fantastic Nashville drummer from Australia. I was watching a video of him playing and noticing that, okay, when he plays a quick hi-hat pattern, he's not doing this. This is what I was doing. I was trying to play down here with like the shoulder to the shaft of the stick, which is honestly kind of stiff and kind of heavy and didn't really feel great. But I was watching Paul Maybury one day and I was like, oh, he's playing out here. And I started to notice, oh, that's what a lot of drummers are doing. That's how Jeff Porcaro's getting that smooth feel for Rosanna. Where instead of, playing way up here, he's playing more down here. And also, and this is something that, honestly don't remember who I heard this from initially. They were talking about hi-hat 16th patterns, and how instead of keeping the hat super tight, instead of being super tight, let them be a little bit loose so they can breathe, because that helps the pattern feel smoother. So instead of going, relax your foot a little bit. And so year 7 for me was the year of really fine-tuning my timekeeping and paying attention to how do my 16th patterns feel. And really trying to be more musical and nuanced in how I did them. And also just focusing on the motion of what I was doing and the placement of the stick. That made a huge difference. So I hope at least one of these has resonated with you. As a matter of fact, my question for you as we close is, which of today's 8 aha moments was the biggest aha moment for you personally? I hope you learned something new today. I hope that one of these could create an aha moment for you, where even if you're not fully grasping it just yet, maybe you're like, okay, Stephen, I see where you're getting at. Let me work on this. And maybe the true aha moment for you will come next month or in a few months. And some of these things you might fully realize as your own light bulb moments a year or several years from now. But of course, you have to know and you have to be patient, and that this takes time. But at least now you're equipped with some tips that'll hopefully save you a lot of time and get you further ahead of where I was as a beginner. I wish I had known all this stuff as a beginner. You'll now have some awesome things that you can see on the horizon and look forward to and know, okay, these are the skills I'm going to be able to do. As I work on jazz, I'm going to get better at rock. As I start paying attention to listening to music deeply, I'm going to start noticing the melody, which is going to show me what to play. All the answers are there. And so you're able to at least now see, okay, this is where I want to go. These are those mile markers, those milestones that I can see out on the horizon of my playing. And so I hope this is encouraging to you, and I hope this excites you and motivates you so you can see what's coming ahead on the horizon. And so be encouraged knowing that exponential growth, these aha moments come in seasons. They will come, even if they're not coming right now, they're going to come eventually. They're going to come in seasons, and they'll come automatically with practice and experience. You can't really control when an aha moment happens, but I promise you they will come. Just enjoy the process. Enjoy that daily habit of sitting at your drums and enjoying your instrument, sitting and listening to music and enjoying music. If you're not enjoying playing your instrument, if you're not enjoying listening to music, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're having fun with the process. Don't get frustrated by a lack of progress. Enjoy the process, and the progress is going to come naturally, and you're going to reach these aha moments. You're going to reach your goals and your dreams. So again, which of today's 8 big aha moments was an aha moment for you personally? I'd love to know. Let's talk about it in the comments. As always, know that you can do this. You can master the drums. Stay patient, stick with it, and stay non-glamorous. I'll see you on the next lesson.